Are you sharing?
exhausted.
Did your mother give you
That's
that?
a share.
You already have this recording, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about PixyCam. PixyCam's been out now for about 3 years, so it's not new per se, but it does have still some cool things about it, and I was really hoping we'd have a few more of the newer members so that they would be introduced to it. So
Well, they're going to see it online.
yeah, they can see it online. So what is Pixie? A lot of people look at it, and it's this little board right here in the corner, and they say, "Oh, it's a camera." And we always think of it as a camera ourselves, but in actuality, it's a vision sensor. The intent was that it has an output that you use as a sensor, and not that you don't have to process it anymore. It just comes out sensor output. It can do it's a two-trick pony. It can do two things. It can detect blobs, and it can detect what they call color codes, which are a combination of blobs. All right? So that's where it really we can do. And it can also do 7 of them. Let me get rid of this little window here. So, here's the overall specs. It's a dual core, 204 megahertz NXP processor. It's an OV9715 camera, 1280 by 800 pixel. So it's the more important thing from most robot people's point of view is that it's got a field of view of 75 degrees, and it's got a vertical of 47. It does have data outputs. It can do serial, SPI, I2C, USB, and the digital logic are actually two parts of the same output. It was introduced in August of 2013, and it made $250,000 on Kickstarter. So, pretty good. Yeah,
Unlike some of the ones that didn't make it, lost money.
Now, one thing that I'm not going to talk about too much, but it also has the ability, it has 2 RC servo ports on it, which are meant to be used with this particular pan and tilt that they sold. I do not recommend this pan and tilt because the camera itself is $69. See, I called it a camera. The vision sensor is $69, and this laser cut 2 servo pan and tilt is $32. I could have had half of a Pixie for the price of this guy. I wouldn't recommend
Now
this.
we'll change our recommendation if they sponsor us and give us a bunch of pictures.
Yeah.
That'll
So anyway, so there's now 2 versions of the Pixie. There's a Lego version and a standard version. I would say anybody buying a new one would just go ahead and buy the Lego version. Even if you don't use Legos, would make it more resellable if you ever wanted to go there. And there's only really the only difference between the 2 versions are the I2C pull-up resistors. All right, and so
Well, the Lego version has an A in the.
Yeah, it has an A in the part number.
Better.
Can you use the Lego version with your Arduino and everything else?
Yes, you can. In fact, you probably wouldn't even notice it because I'm not sure if there would be an impact on the I2C interface, but for sure the default interface for Arduino is SPI, so you wouldn't see it at all. All right, so
Is that the interface you're using? Excuse me, Doug.
Huh?
Is that the interface you're using here?
Yes, I'm using SPI. Now, I'm going to show you this because I know nobody in here is a real Lego person, but it's kind of this is a cool video and it's worth seeing. So, and there's, if you ever sell one of these things, this is something might get some Let's see if we can go through. Whoops. Huh?
In 2013, a little vision sensor named Pixie made its debut on Kickstarter. Pixie works with Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and BeagleBone Black. And now you can use Pixie with LEGO Mindstorm's EV3 and NXT.
So you can see they're using the serial port.
Teaching Pixie to detect new objects is as easy as pressing a button. With vision, your robot can accomplish important tasks, like chasing things. Pixie is fast, finding objects and providing updates at 50 times per second. Pixie is fast, so your LEGO creation can be fast too. Look, picking up dinosaurs.
So here's our new can, by the way.
Your LEGO
The dinosaurs.
But it can't me.
That little dinosaur crawling away.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to launch projectiles at things. Pixie can do that. Green algae monsters with 8 eyes are not a problem.
As you can see, he misses several times, but it's still
I
kind
was
of.
wondering if this way the thing was out of frame before.
And I'll explain what I think he's wrong with this, why he's missing, okay?
Additional
So if you use Lego, you recognize it's got blocks.
And here's the best part. This is not a crowdfunding campaign. Pixie for Lego is available now. Just click on the link.
Now here he's showing it on the EV3 screen. So he's actually has the screen being displayed on the Lego block. I think he does one more thing here. I think it's a little cockroachy thing.
Like effects.
Anyway, so that's that. So you can see you can do a lot with the Pixie, because anything he did there, you could do on your robot. Okay. And why I would say to get Pixie is because you get all, the Pixie also comes with a special cable, and the normal cable is essentially a 2 by 5. Yeah, 10 connector ribbon cable. So you know you probably got a dozen of those in your jump box. So there's no loss, and you get the extra new cable if you wanted it. And I think there's something else, but that's pretty much. So I wouldn't recommend getting the non-Lego version now because they cost the same. Now, software. All right, I'm going to show. I'll show the Pixie-Mon, which is the viewing software for Windows or Macs. But you also have an Arduino library, which makes it very easy to use with Arduino.
Oh, okay.
You also have the Live Pixie USB, which is for Raspberry Pi, BeagleBone, Black, and obviously the Lego stuff, because the Lego is also a Linux box. So it has the Lego blocks for the Lego programming environment, and then it has its source code, which is out on GitHub if you have a Kyle compiler.
So we never reported that to anything.
Yeah, well, I'll get to that.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so here's their data packets. Pretty much it starts off with a sync sync bit, or I guess a sync word. What's 2 bytes? Is that
A D word.
a word? The
Double
C
word.
word?
You're letting your Microsoft.
No, anyway,
use
it's a word. And then they have a checksum, and then they have a signal which tells whether you have the actual just a blob or whether you have a color code. All right, and then it has the X center of the object, the Y center of the object, the width of the object, the height of the object, and on the color codes it also has the angle. And the reason for that is because you could have a color code which consisted of, say, a green bar and a purple bar, and you could have purple bar and a green bar, which might mean different things, and so you could tell from the angle that it was one or the other.
So if you had the can and 2 colors, you could tell it was being knocked over.
Huh?
So if your competition
And
can
you
was
could
2
do-
colors, you could tell it
do
was
tilting things
yeah.
too. Yeah. So now here's kind of an example of a color code. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a yellow bar and a green bar and a yellow bar. So that's a 3-bar color code. Now, I put them up and down, but they could have been sidewards. All right? And you can go up to 5 bars. And so, you know, but you can only have 7 color signatures that are either a color signature or what they call a code signature. So you only have 7 different colors that you can identify. But if you think about that, if you had 3 bars and 3 colors, you got a pile of choices if you wanted to go that way. There is some differences in how they handle that code. So if you were actually using it, whether or not you're using a signature or a color code. If it's a signature, it's just a word. If it's a color code, it actually puts out the individual bar numbers, or actually the signature numbers, but it does it in octal. So it can handle up to 5 octal numbers in its range. So you could have a bar of up to 5. Okay. Okay. So we're going to do some demonstrations here. Did I show? Oh, let me go back to here. I thought I showed it. Okay. If you look here at this location right here, you can see that there's this is an example of a color bar, and this is a example of a blob. You can look only at blobs, or you can look at only color bars, or you can look at blobs and color bars, or you can look at colors that are mixed. So like if you had you'd have to be careful, because I think that's a situation where you might have, let's say you had an orange bar and an orange blob, they could get mixed. But there might be some reasons why you might. So those are the 2 examples. Now I'm going to just talk a little bit about how to use it. Like I mentioned before, probably the main thing that you want to get out of the specs, because you can't really change anything, is that they have the horizontal viewing angle, which is 75 degrees. Okay, and with that you can essentially, and here's how I do it. I actually break that 320 pixels into 80 blocks. All right, so think of it as 4 pixel blocks. There's 80 of them, and that's my 320 block range that's on 75 degrees. So if I get a signal that tells me that the center of the X position is in the middle, 160, then I know that that my target's in front of me. If it's a high number, I know it's to the right. If it's to a low number, I know it's to the left. And I send just that translated, and I use the range of 40 to 120. I just send that and I offset it by 40. So if I get an 80, that tells me I'm centered up. And with that, I can just drive towards my target. And that's pretty much, and it only has to send, because I'm using on this robot something that even though this is a sensor on itself, I'm using a little Pro Mini Arduino board to handle the direct connection. And the reason I do that is because I was trying to build a module, a system that I didn't have to screw with because I was using a different processor. Otherwise, yes, you could write different code and take it straight from the Pixie. You don't need this little guy. But for me, I just send an RS-232 port character every 20 milliseconds, because this is 50 frames per second, and that's all I do. And if you, let's see if I can get this guy. Get this guy out of the way.
So you're saying this intermediate processor takes the data from the Pixie and reduces it to this.
This
very
one to
simple
this,
state.
to this.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. You don't have to
No,
do
no,
it.
no, 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 okay.
But by doing that, I actually move this Pixie from place to place and just don't have to think about it. I just plug it in, plug in the serial port and I'm off and running.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. Let's see if I can get it to make sure. My signal, it looks like my signal, I probably should have learned it better. But anyway, if you look at, let me do that real quick. That was probably not a good thing to do. All right, let's see. So I'm going to go back to Pixie-Mon. Clear off all the signals, all the signatures. All right. Oh, while I'm here, let me show you. Here's the configurations. Here's what you can do.
Oh, this looks newer than the stuff I'm using.
Yeah, this is probably you have your signature tuning. So the default on all of these guys is 3. I'm just going to set them to 3. Oops. And figure.
It's interesting that fluorescent lights are sort of freaking the camera out a little bit. See the
Nice
band?
roll, that's a nice roll top to bottom there.
Is that from the?
No, we don't see
camera
that, Ron.
standpoint? Huh?
I don't think anybody except you sees that.
What are you talking about? How are you not?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Very good at eye doctor.
So anyway, so let's say, here's how you would go about it. You have the tuning signatures which you can fine tune. The signature labels are used with the codes. You can actually change the label. Instead of being signal 1, you can be call if you want to. Expert level really has to do with the color codes. You can have blocks, and you can have up to 1,000 blocks. And you can also set the minimum size block. So typically I set this to 1 or 2 or whatever I'm trying to look at. Okay, I don't want 1,000. And the way it comes down to you is the largest block is block 0, next largest block is block 1, next largest block is block 2, and so on. All right, here's where you pick your
So that's
interface.
nothing to do with like number of pixels occupied by the blob? Can they talk about
Yeah,
block
size of block,
Okay, so it's probably the total pixel area.
total pixel area.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
And then you have the servo and whatnot.
What's
But
under
this
camera?
is the one that you're gonna most likely use most of the time. So I come up here and I have, if you look, I have 7 signatures and I have 7 CC signatures. You can't go like set signature 1 and CC signature 1 to be different colors. All right, because it'll mess it up, because you have a total of 7 of these 14 options that you can have. All right, and you can clear or not, or you can restore the default parameters. So if you just go up, it's pretty much like most blob routines. If you had a real mouse, you could probably do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Let's see here. Let's do this. Might have to take this out and on. Okay, so now you go up there, you set your signal, just select an area. I'm going to select a pretty big area. Okay, and that's what it sees. And you have the cook view. And the raw view and the cook view. And the cook view shows it. They also have a view which I thought it was cooked, which would be black.
Oh, okay.
Okay, black, and all you would see would be the signature. I'm going to push some buttons here, see if I can find it. I'll do this one. That one. That's the run button.
Gears set up.
Okay, it's called default, okay? All right, so here you're seeing what the camera is recording. All right, so that looks pretty good. But if I wanted to, I'll show what happens when I do the configuration. Okay, we'll move this guy over here. And we'll go to the cook view. This guy, all right. Yeah. But you can also, and you have to be careful about this because you can kind of get some false sense, but you can drop it down. You see, I'm turning the range down. This is really, I think, the color level range that I'm adjusting, and or I can fill it up. And if I was in a perfect environment, I might want to run it up there, okay? But in reality, I found that usually about where the default is really not too bad, and just leave it there. All right, but I have changed it in some lighting environments. And you say, well, what about outdoors? Does this thing work outdoors? Well, yes, you have in this configuration, you do have a brightness. I believe it's under color. I mean camera. No, it's not under camera.
It was under signal tuning, it was the bottom one.
Huh?
Signal tuning, the bottom value. Go back where you were, all the way back.
Okay, was it in there? Okay. So
Bottom
yeah,
one.
down here you can adjust the brightness, and that's one level. I had a pair of old Polaroid glasses, sunglasses. I just 3D printed a little thingy for it. I had to make sure that I didn't clip the lens view, but it worked pretty good. This being polarized, it does help. It also, it's not neutral density, but it does also drop the light level. So, because the problem with all these things, if you run into the saturation, you're going to have problems.
Yeah, also, about the same time you did that, I had a package of lenses that I just bought from Best Buy or someplace.
Yeah.
So I've got the 3D file for a standard camera lens
Yeah.
to mount that, so you can try different lenses that are just standard size.
So it's you can see here it's doing this. Now, one of the things I wanted to show. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Take this off. Why an added feature that, and this could be done, you don't need this little mini thing, but like I say, the idea with the Mini Pro was to have a little board that I could just move from Pixie to Pixie to Pixie. And I actually have one that's on a test board, so I can just throw my Pixie up on the test board and it works too. But one of the things that I liked about it was that if you look here, there's two LEDs on it, a red one and a green one. And I just have it so that if it's centered, both of them are on, and there's a dead zone around the center. And then on each side, the PWM going to the light actually disappears. Yeah, you can, so, and that was really helpful as a visual tool to, make sure that your camera is working. Because if you come into a new location with extremely different lights or challenging lights, if you don't retrain, your robot's going to have issues. But like if I were to take this robot, now that it's trained for this room, and take it out of here for 2 weeks and come back into this controlled lighting, it would still be good. So that's interesting. So anyway, now that's pretty much the introduction. Oh, I'll have one more slide, I believe. Don't do that. No, please don't.
The problem I have is when I go away from the robot for 2 years, I need a label to tell me what those LEDs are. You fire it. What is this?
Okay.
Your robot's gonna come with tutorials.
All right, so, okay. Now, the company that sells these is Charmed Labs. They're out of Carnegie Mellon University. They've also worked on some other, some of our sponsored parks. They've also worked on. I thought that this was their first project, and that's what they've done. But it turns out they've actually made several different products. And one that they made that kind of touches on us is that they actually were responsible for the Vex Pro. So, just on the side. Okay, here, promises. There's been 2 promises that they've made that, looking at their updating rate of their website, I don't think they're ever going to get there. One is they were going to do face tracking, and supposedly they were well on the way. But like I say, this stuff hasn't changed for 2 years. Building Pixie software for GCC, it hasn't changed for 2 years. So if that's ever going to happen, it's going to happen because somebody in the community does it. That's my opinion. So I'm a little disappointed in that aspect.
So that was August 2 years ago. They thought they were going to really.
Yeah. So I don't. There's some neat things here I wanted to show you is that you can put them on your robots very quickly. They're easy to set up. If you need those 2 tricks, it's a great deal. It's reasonably robust. If you're an absolute beginner, I would say it's a good investment for a couple of reasons. One, it gets you into the game. And the second thing is, it also starts to show you what can you really expect. All right? Because, a lot of people think, vision. He saw all of the different filterings that Carl had to do to get something that he could use. Well, most people don't realize how much behind the scenes there really is to get something to work. So those are probably the main points on that. One thing I wanted to show off a little bit here. As you know, they don't have Pixie for the Vex IQ, but they did issue a standard IC interface to the Vex IQ. It was done by Vex and a gentleman out in California, and it used a MSP 430 launch pad, which at the time only cost $4 and some cents. Now it's about $10. But so using just a standard launch pad board and a cable made from one of their normal cables, you're able to actually use a Pixie on a VexIQ. Now, there are a lot of limitations because what this guy is actually using, he's using that analog digital interface, so he can only look at the largest blob of one color signature that you defined. But, you know, if you're just looking after cans, that's one color, one blob, that's all you need.
Why do you think with all the processing power we got in that 430, that's all that, I mean, that, obviously get it working first, but that seems kind of limiting.
What processor?
What do you mean, the 430?
Well, yeah, the 430 could do a hell of a lot more than just
Oh,
detect A to D
well,
pin
Just
and.
what he used.
No. Yes, you probably could, but I'm talking about doing the easiest thing. Otherwise,
Yeah.
there is a standard
Yeah.
interface example. Change 4 lines of code, you got Pixie on, Pixie on an IQ. All right.
So how much information is being sent to the VEX? Is it just, did you say it's just looking like a sensor?
It's just sending an I-square signal every 20 milliseconds.
Oh, it's sending I2C, so some, okay.
Yes. Yeah, and VEX's protocol is really complex. It essentially goes in and does something like, it tests all of, there's 12 ports, there's 4 IC squared channels. It checks all the ports, it clears them all out, changes the address number. It does a whole bunch of weird stuff, probably for proprietary reasons. But they did release it, and with that you can do this fairly easy. And as you guys know, this particular robot actually came in second on our 6-cam competition this year. And if he was a little faster, he could have beat him, but I could squeeze the speed out with what I was doing. I'd have to have gotten smart. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Pixie's pretty simple, easy to use, definitely worth the $69, and you ought to have it in your, have at least one, you know. So anyway, that's it, and that's all I have.
All right, great. Thanks,
Anybody
Doug.
has any questions?
Yeah, any questions for Doug?
Yeah, like I say, you guys probably might be beyond this, but I really do enjoy my Pixies because it allows you to put vision systems on almost anything very, very simply.